At exactly 3:48 a.m., a signal pulsed through the walls of the time variance laboratory. It was low, almost imperceptible, unless you were awake and waiting for it. Dr. Elise Navarro was. She sat cross-legged on the linoleum floor in her office, her hair in a loose braid, glasses fogged slightly from the tea she had not touched. The monitors buzzed quietly, casting blue light across dozens of scattered notebooks. On the center screen, the time stamp blinked, 3 hours, 48 minutes, and 0 seconds. The signal was late by 12 minutes, and that terrified her more than if it had never come at all. 12 minutes was everything. It was why she was still alive. Her fingers trembled as she scribbled the arrival code onto the corner of a napkin. Not in a notebook. Not on any log system. It had to stay off the record, at least for now. Elise stood and walked to the observation window overlooking the core. Below, in the hexagonal chamber, the chrono well pulsed with quiet menace. Its surface rippled like disturbed water, framed by cold steel girders and electromagnetic staves. They had stopped calling it a portal after what happened to Marcus in Phase 2. Portal implied a way back. There was no going back. Not for the same entry point, not unless you planned for the divergence. She glanced at the wall to her left, where red yarn crisscrossed between photos and sketches in a web of connections. To a stranger, it might look like a conspiracy board, but to Elise, it was a timeline. Her timeline. In the corner, a faded Polaroid showed her and her daughter, Camilla, standing in front of a carousel. Camilla was 8. Elise looked younger, alive in a way she no longer recognized in the mirror. The carousel had burned down 2 years ago. Camilla had been in the gift shop when the roof gave in. The official story claimed it was a tragic accident. No one could have predicted how fast the fire spread, but Elise knew better. Someone had caused it, and whoever it was had done more than set a building ablaze. The signal at 3:48 was not just an alert about a temporal shift. It was a message from someone with her handwriting, someone who had made different choices. A soft ping echoed from her desk. A thin envelope had appeared inside the intercept hatch. It had been pushed through the localized slipstream chamber, a fragile delivery system meant to move messages through time with minimal interference. Across the front, written in her own hand, were the words, "Read only after you choose." She did not need to open it yet. She already knew what it said. She had 12 minutes. 10 years ago, Elise had written her first paper on magnetic anomalies in closed urban environments, theorizing that time could stretch under the right conditions. Folding had not been part of the discussion, but everything changed after the war. After the Singapore event, when 6 minutes vanished from the world without explanation, governments began pouring money into time research. What had once been fringe science became national security. Elise never meant to build a weapon, but intention meant little once algorithms took over. Now it was Phase 4, no more simulations, a real traversal. At 4 o'clock, someone would go through the chrono well, someone who would not return. And if she did nothing, Camilla would still die, not from the fire. That was a distraction. The real event happened 12 minutes after the flames started. It was the true target. And the only way to stop it was to reach the right point in the timeline and alter it from the inside. But only someone with a calibrated memory marker could make the jump without being erased. Only Elise. She opened a side drawer and retrieved the injection pen. Inside was a neuron seed. It would store her memories and intentions, encoding them in a signal the chrono well could detect and anchor. The process was banned. No one outside Black Ops should even know it existed. She could go back. She could save Camilla. But she would never return. Her gaze shifted back to the envelope. She hesitated, then broke the seal. Inside was a single line written in her own careful script. "Do not forget what you lose by winning." She closed her eyes. 12 minutes before the end. She stepped into the elevator and began her descent into time. The elevator descended with a low mechanical hum. Elise stood still, arms at her sides, the envelope still in one hand, the injection pen in the other. Her breath fogged lightly in the cold, recycled air. Below her, the core expanded like a mechanical cathedral, filled with scaffolding, turbines, and rings of light moving in perfect rhythm. This was no longer the lab she had built with colleagues and curiosity. This was something else now. Military-owned, silence-enforced, and governed by committees she had never met. She stepped out into sublevel 6, where the floor vibrated with the rhythm of the chrono well's inner workings. Standing at the access gate was a technician she barely recognized, young, nervous, too clean to know what was really going on here. He scanned her badge without asking questions. The computer hesitated for one beat before flashing green. "You have 10 minutes, Dr. Navarro," he said, voice flat. "They're locking it down at 4 o'clock. "I only need 8, Elise replied. She stepped through the gate. Past the barrier, the room opened wide around the well, which now glowed a dull violet. The platform was ready, cables coiled neatly beside it, a suit hanging from a metal rack. The suit was insulated, woven with temporal mesh, and linked to a tether that allowed two-way communication for the first 2 minutes of transit. After that, all contact was absorbed by the time field. No one had ever survived past minute 3. Elise opened the panel on the injection pen. The neuron seed was intact. She set it down gently beside the suit and turned to the control terminal. The divergence protocol required 3 things: a calibrated destination, a personal anchor, and a living subject. She had all 3. Destination: November 11th, 2034, 4 Ramon. Anchor: Camilla Navarro, age 10, coded by DNA resonant subject. Elise Navarro. Logged voluntarily. The protocol blinked red. Unauthorized use. No clearance. No military oversight. This jump was illegal. She entered the override code. 5 years ago, she had buried the access string inside an unpublished appendix of a peer-reviewed journal, hidden behind 3 layers of passive encryption. Via A-running, the terminal paused for 6 full seconds before accepting it. Divergence trajectory accepted, it finally announced. Subject acknowledged. Elise suited up, slow and precise. Every clip and seal felt heavier than it should. Inside the helmet, her breath echoed like a countdown. She stepped onto the platform. The floor below her vibrated as the field came online. A final screen flashed before her. Warning, this action is irreversible. Proceed? She placed her palm on the panel. Yes. Time contracted. There was no flash of light, no burst of sound. Just pressure pulling inward from every joint, a silence so thick it hurt, and then it was gone. She landed hard on wet pavement. It was dark. The smell of burnt plastic filled her lungs. Smoke, fresh and close. Sirens nearby. She pushed herself up, head spinning, heart pounding. She was behind the carousel, the same gift shop. The day of the fire, but something was wrong. The fire had not started yet, and Camilla was already here. Elise heard her own voice from around the corner, cheerful and unaware. The other Elise, the version of herself that had not yet made the choice. Camilla's laugh followed. She had arrived 12 minutes early, exactly as planned. But someone else had too. A shadow moved through the smoke between the buildings. Not a firefighter, not a civilian. Someone out of place, watching the door to the gift shop. Elise froze. This was the divergence, the real one. The fire was a cover. The target was not the girl. It was the mother. She reached for the small transmitter strapped to her wrist. It was blinking red. She was not alone in the timeline. And whoever had come through after her was already altering the chain. Elise crouched behind a maintenance shed, her back pressed to cold concrete as her mind raced. Her legs ached from the jump, her muscles resisting the reality that they now existed in a time they once left behind. But this was not nostalgia. This was war, one waged in minutes and heartbeats. Across the lot, the carousel rotated slowly. Its lights flickered as the music box inside played a faint, distorted tune. A maintenance worker wheeled a cart of tools toward it, just like she remembered. Everything was lining up, minute by minute, like a memory replayed with cruel precision. Camilla should be inside the gift shop by now. Elise pulled the small scanner from her hip pouch. The device lit up with scattered pulses of blue and red, timeline anchors, electromagnetic activity, and something new. Something dark, a presence with no baseline, no resonance signature. Another jumper. But how? Only one window had been created. Only one divergence was coded. Had someone piggybacked on her jump? She moved fast, sticking to the shadows, avoiding cameras. Her body remembered this place too well. Every corner, every exit. She had spent weeks here after the fire, combing through wreckage, trying to find evidence of what truly happened. Now she had a second chance, but it wouldn't last. As she neared the gift shop's rear entrance, a motion sensor chirped softly. The door had been opened from the inside. Elise stepped in. Rows of cheap toys and stuffed animals lined the walls. The place was untouched by fire for now. Her eyes swept across the aisles, searching for movement. Then she heard it. A whisper, barely audible, not Camilla's voice. A man's. She doesn't remember, yet. Elise froze. The voice came from the security office in the back. She crept forward, every footstep calculated. Her pulse climbed with every word she couldn't make out. She reached the door. Inside, a man sat at the terminal, scrolling through security footage. He wore no uniform, no ID. His face was half lit by the monitor. And he looked just like someone she used to know, Liam, from Phase 2. He had vanished during a trial run 3 years ago. They had assumed he was lost in the loop, a casualty of the unstable protocols. But now here he was, alive and moving through her moment. She stepped into the room. Liam, he turned slowly. Elise, he said calmly, like he'd been expecting her. You made it. What are you doing here? You shouldn't be asking that, he replied, voice measured. You should be asking what she becomes if you save her. Elise didn't answer. Her eyes darted to the screen. It showed Camilla at the carousel, standing near a broken panel. Sparks had begun to jump across the ride's control box. You caused the fire. No, Liam said. I let it happen. You're the one trying to overwrite what was necessary. Her fingers clenched. This is not your decision. Liam stood. You know what happens if she lives. You've seen it in the projections. The war doesn't end. It escalates. She grows up and finishes what you started. No, she weaponizes the well. That's not her. That's a future you let happen. I've lived in that future, Elise. I've seen the crater. The two of them stood face to face, separated by 3 years and an impossible choice. Then Camilla's scream echoed through the building. Elise turned and bolted toward the sound. The carousel had surged with energy, bolts of electricity dancing across its frame. Camilla was on the edge of the platform, hand extended, reaching for something Elise couldn't see. Elise sprinted forward. And as she reached for her daughter, time fractured. Reality bent inward, colors reversed, sound became static. For 1 second, she saw both outcomes play at once, Camilla burning in her arms, and Camilla standing in a future Elise could not recognize. She grabbed her daughter and pulled her free. Behind them, the ride exploded into flame, but Liam was gone, and the timeline had shifted. Elise pulled Camilla into the alley beside the burning carousel, shielding her from the wave of heat that burst outward. The glass on nearby windows cracked in unison, and screams erupted from the crowd that had begun to gather. Flames rose high into the early morning sky, painting the clouds orange and gray. Camilla trembled in her arms, coughing from the smoke. "You're okay," Elise whispered, brushing her hair back. "You're safe." Camilla looked up at her, eyes dazed. "Who are you?" The words stabbed deeper than any wound. Of course, this Camilla didn't recognize her. Elise was still a stranger in this version of the timeline, a woman appearing from nowhere in the middle of chaos. Elise backed away slightly, heart pounding. She couldn't stay with her. Not yet. She needed to secure the scene, clean the chain before the breach widened. Every second increased the risk of memory corruption or collapse. She had altered the event. Now she had to stabilize it. A high-pitched tone buzzed in her ear, the wrist transmitter alerting her to another presence again. Not Liam, something colder. She tapped the side of the device. A screen blinked open and a digital pulse sketched out the signal's path. It was moving through the crowd, watching them both. She had a decision to make. Stay with Camilla and risk drawing in whoever or whatever was still here. Or sever the contact again and keep the girl on the unaltered path. Elise reached into her utility pouch and pulled out a data tag. She pressed it gently to Camilla's jacket collar. "Don't lose this," she said softly. Camilla blinked, confused. "Why are you crying?" "I just remembered something important." She turned and ran. The signal was heading toward the old maintenance corridor beneath the park, a passage Elise remembered from the original investigation, long since sealed. But she was no longer bound by the rules of that past. She reached the rusted gate and forced it open. The corridor was narrow, wires and pipes lining both walls. The darkness swallowed sound. Halfway through, her foot struck something metal. A power node, torn open, tampered with. Then she heard the voice again. Not Liam's. Elise Navarro, time trespasser, chain corruptor, memory thief. The voice came from nowhere, from everywhere. She drew her sidearm, the one piece of tech allowed to travel through anchored jumps. Its grip felt colder than it should. The light on its side flickered. Another presence appeared ahead, not a man. A silhouette, half-formed, flickering between frames like a broken video feed. It wore a mask that bent inward, like a face made of mirrors. "You changed the chain," it said. "But you do not control the end." Elise fired. The shot passed through it, hitting the pipe behind. Steam burst into the corridor. The figure didn't flinch. It stepped closer. "We are not here to kill the girl," it said. "We're here to correct you." Elise backed up. "What are you?" It didn't answer. Instead, it raised its hand and released a pulse of energy. Not heat. Not light. Memory. Images surged into her mind. Camilla on a throne of glass, soldiers kneeling, the core weaponized. The chrono well turned into a gate for invasion, not salvation. And Elise standing behind her daughter, older, colder, a mother-turned-advisor. She screamed. The corridor vanished. When she opened her eyes again, she was back in her lab. The time window had collapsed. Her wrists were bound. Alarms blared in the distance. A voice cut through the noise, cold, official. "Dr. Navarro, you have violated protocol and triggered Divergence Class 1. You are under arrest for timeline manipulation." But none of that mattered now, because Elise had seen what came next. And if she didn't act soon, the real war would begin. Elise sat shackled in the observation chamber, lit by harsh white panels that hung faintly overhead. The air tasted filtered, synthetic. A surveillance drone hovered quietly in the corner, red light blinking, transmitting every breath she took to a tribunal she would never see. Her suit had been stripped. Her wrists were raw from the cuffs. Across the glass, a figure entered. Commander Lyra Bautista, head of the Bureau of Temporal Compliance. She wore the expression of someone rehearsing empathy but settling for control. "You've made quite a mess," Lyra said, setting a tablet on a metal table. "This isn't a cleanup we can bury." Elise didn't respond. She kept her eyes on the screen behind Lyra. which displayed a real-time chain monitor. It pulsed red across several nodes, corrupted events in flux. One of them was Camilla's fire. Another was the anomaly in the carousel control box. And the largest node blinked without a label, stretching into a future Elise could no longer predict. "We recovered your daughter," Lyra continued. "She's safe, minor injuries. But we found something else. A signature that made Elise look up. From who? That's what we're trying to determine. This isn't a rogue time agent. The energy profile is wrong, dispersed, reflective, like it was written into the chain instead of passing through it." Elise stiffened. "What does that mean?" "It means someone or something is embedding itself in time, not jumping, residing." Lyra tapped the tablet. A projected image hovered above the table, the masked figure Elise saw in the corridor. Its outline flickered, distorted by interference. "We're calling it the Architect," Lyra said. "And it knows you." Elise's throat tightened. "I need to see Camilla," she said. "Now." "That's not going to happen," Lyra replied. "You broke Divergence Law. You'll be held under neurological stasis until we determine the full chain impact." Elise leaned forward. "Then you don't understand what's coming." "We understand it perfectly," Lyra said. "You're trying to rewrite history to preserve a personal outcome. The cost of that is unknown futures for everyone else." "It's not personal anymore," Elise said, voice low. "The Architect isn't just embedding itself, it's editing." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Show me the moment just before the fire," Elise said. Lyra hesitated, then gestured to the screen. The footage loaded, the carousel lit up. Sparks flared across the panel, then something flickered behind the ride. Frame by frame, Elise watched it. A small hand reached out. But it wasn't Camilla's. The hand pulled the circuit breaker down. "Pause," Elise said. Lyra frowned. "That's a child." Elise stood, eyes locked on the image. "No, that's Camilla." "But not the Camilla from that day." Lyra's mouth opened, but no words came. Elise stepped closer to the screen. "She's already started. The Architect didn't corrupt the chain. Camilla did." The containment room was built like a sanctuary for dangerous minds, soundproof, sterile, and buried deep beneath the main complex of the Bureau. Camilla Navarro sat alone at its center, legs tucked beneath her, eyes half closed. The light above her flickered unnaturally, humming with a frequency just sharp enough to irritate, but never distract. She was 10 years old, but her posture had changed. Not slouched like a frightened child, not upright like a soldier either, balanced, composed, like someone used to waiting. In the observation deck, Commander Lyra Bautista watched from behind reinforced glass. Her team murmured around her, comparing neurological scans, pulse readings, and quantum bleed patterns. Everything Camilla did was recorded, tagged, archived. The girl hadn't spoken since she'd been brought in. Until now. "She's humming," one of the technicians whispered. They turned the audio feed up. It was faint, almost tuneless, but deliberate. A lullaby. Out of sync with real time by a fraction of a second. Lyra narrowed her eyes. "What is that?" "Analyzing," came the reply. "There's a mathematical structure to it, like code. Fractal sequencing. Recursive intervals." "She's singing in loops," Lyra muttered. "She's testing the walls." Down below, Camilla blinked and turned her head toward the glass. She couldn't see them. The mirror tint was one way, but her gaze landed exactly where Lyra stood. She smiled. Lyra stepped back. "She knows we're here." Across the compound, Elise sat in a holding room, no longer bound, but under strict watch. 2 guards flanked the door. Her palms rested on the cool table, eyes locked on the small silver device placed in front of her, a temporal burst transmitter, unauthorized and stripped of power. They were giving her one chance. "Convince us," Lyra had said, "that the chain is more dangerous without you in it." She had one option: get to Camilla. Her fingers tapped against the table in the same rhythm Camilla had been humming. It wasn't just a song, it was a pattern. One Elise had embedded in Camilla's toy blocks when she was 4 as part of a diagnostic game. She's remembering things she shouldn't know yet, Elise thought. That's not fracture. That's direction. The architect hadn't planted something in Camilla. Camilla had planted something in herself. From the hallway came the sudden sound of raised voices, then silence. The door opened. A figure entered, not a guard, not a commander. Liam. Elise's heart leapt. You're alive. He looked different, thinner, paler, eyes hollowed by something more than exhaustion. I wasn't supposed to make it back, he said quietly. But she pulled me through. Camilla? He nodded. She reached backward, dragged me out of the well mid-collapse. But she didn't pull me here. She pulled me to then. Where? To a future we stopped trying to chart. He sat across from her. I've seen what she becomes, what you become, and what happens when the Directorate tries to contain her. They'll fail, Elise said. They already did. We're living the second loop now, and you're about to trigger the third. Liam leaned in. She's not the villain, but she's not your daughter anymore either. Not entirely. The lights above flickered. A soft pulse rolled through the building, like the echo of a silent alarm. She's opening the gate again, Liam said. Elise stood. No more watching, she said. Take me to her. The sirens didn't wail. They shimmered, light running across the compound's walls in silent, pulsing waves. Systems scrambled, firewalls collapsed. Every analog lock failed at once. Somewhere deep in the Bureau's control core, a voice whispered over the comms. Not loud, not even human. Just repeating the same line. This is not a breach. This is a return. Elise and Liam moved fast through the empty corridors. Doors that should have been locked clicked open as they approached. Lights bent slightly behind them, shadows warping as if the building itself was reluctant to remember its shape. She's not doing this consciously, Liam said, checking the scanner. The gate's reacting to her. Because she built it, Elise said. No, because she will. They reached the containment wing, now evacuated. On the other side of the reinforced glass, Camilla stood barefoot in the middle of the chamber, arms extended. She looked calm, peaceful, but the walls around her vibrated, the air distorted in ripples. Elise didn't wait. She stepped through the security breach, past the disabled threshold, and into the room. Camilla turned. Hi, Mom. Her voice was older, not in tone, but in certainty. She smiled, and for a second, she really was just a girl again. Until Elise looked into her eyes. They weren't full of innocence. They were full of memory, more than a 10-year-old should ever carry. You've seen what I become, Camilla said. I have, Elise replied. But I still believe you can choose. Camilla tilted her head. That's the thing, though. I didn't choose, I remembered. She walked forward, placed a hand against Elise's cheek. I remember you holding me in the fire. And I remember letting it burn. Why? Elise asked, tears stinging her eyes. Why go back and start it? Because something else was trying to erase us, me, all versions. It needed the chain severed. I needed to ignite it. Who is it, the architect? Camilla shook her head. The architect is the design, but I am the author. I didn't go rogue. I went forward. I saw what the Directorate would do. The wells, the harnessing, the control. She stepped back and raised both hands. Light spun around her fingertips like threads. In their dance, Elise saw flashes, wars in neon cities. Empires ruled by time-bound kings, children bred for memory. I've run the chain to its end 1,000 times, Camilla said. And in every outcome, I become their weapon. Then we destroy it, Elise said, together. Camilla looked at her mother deeply for the first time in years and seconds all at once. Will you jump with me, she asked. To where? Camilla smiled. 12 minutes before the end. Elise nodded. Behind them, the chamber split with light. The floor collapsed into an expanding field of cascading numbers, the fabric of time unwinding itself. Liam stood at the doorway, watching with awe and fear. He raised a hand in salute. Camilla turned to Elise and took her hand. "Close your eyes." And just before the light swallowed them whole, Elise whispered, "No matter what time you find me in, I will always be your mother." Then they were gone. And in their absence, the wells all shut down. One by one, forever.